Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of What's Happening Now with C&I Solutions. As always, remember to like, share, and comment on this broadcast, as there could be information in here, not just necessarily useful for yourself, but to probably a family member's neighbor or friend. Keep in mind, C&I Solutions is coming up into the summer event. We do have some summer events that's going to be taking place. Don't forget about the entrepreneur classes that we have here. If you're looking to start your business, please look us up so we can get you into one of those entrepreneur classes so you can get that business started and keep it going the right way. So in the studio tonight, we have a special guest with us. We have Mr. Richard Williams. Richard, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
Glad to be here.
I'm outstanding. I know you and we have worked together with Anvo and doing our little peer-to-peer meetings and helping those who had just returned from out of, as we call it, behind the iron gates, like this, and try to get them reacclimated to society. Tell us a little bit about your story, where you came from, how you get started, and where you're at right now.
Well, I'm originally from Oklahoma City.
Okay.
We grew up, well, I don't understand the word poor. We didn't have a lot. We didn't have much at all, but poor was not part of it.
Okay.
But I'm the youngest of four. And, again, we from Oklahoma City, and I piddled around, and actually we moved into a better neighborhood when I was in grade school in elementary. And I got started there, and we was in a neighborhood where it was quite a few people.
Okay.
And it became a group of us. In our little group, we would hang out and do things. So I actually started drinking and using marijuana in junior high school.
Oh, wow. All right.
And, I was just part of the gang. I was the youngest, but I was not baby boy. I was just the youngest of the group. And me, my brother, and all of us, we hung out and drank, smoked a little weed. And that started from junior high school, but it elevated. I was pretty much, what's the word? Not bad, but mischievous.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was responsible. And we continued to drink and get high and all the way. And by the time I hit high school, I had tried a lot of different drugs and weed, and we used to do Robitussin, drink Robitussin, and took a little acid, orange sunshine, purple haze, whatever. Just experimenting. So by the time I hit high school, I was pretty much going to just drink and smoke weed, But I continued on that journey, and that elevated. And I went into the military. We got pulled over one time. We was going somewhere, and we got pulled over, and we had marijuana. And I was facing going up to court for marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to join the military. And I told the judge I'm going to the military. And that was what got me. They said if I don't go, then I would be facing these charges. But I went in, and I did well in the military, but I was still doing me. And through basic and AIT, I did a few things. And then I went to Germany. But when I hit Germany, everything changed. When I hit Germany, I elevated to trying a little heroin, and I sold a little hashies, and it was funny because I walked right into that. It was like I walked right into all of that. Because I went to Germany, and when I got to my duty station, my company was in the field, so I was in garrison. They told me to go enjoy Schaffenburg, and I did, and it was some guys in the company next door that came out, and we went out, and I got with them, and we drank a little wine, and they turned me on to some hashies, and next thing I know, I was off and running, and I started selling hashies. And during that time, I had married a young lady, and I brought over to Germany. I was trying to get her to Germany too, so they introduced me to another man that was living off post with a German lady. And he was selling hash. So it was a fortune for us when I got my wife over. So I ended up selling hash, and that got me to where.
So let me ask you. So you started at a very young age in junior high. Just with the drinking and smoking a little bit of weed then. And I think you mentioned that it was hanging around with the guys in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Do you feel was it peer pressure that got you to that point, or was it just something that you wanted to do so you can feel like I'm somebody?
I would go with really both, but not some. I didn't feel pressure, but I did feel somebody being a part of. Because I mean, I said I was almost the youngest, but I was part of the game, and I felt like somebody. Yeah, more like for somebody.
So once you got into Germany, it was just kind of like a no-brainer. Like, I'm already been here, and you're there with this group, and they're selling hash, and you just got into that as well.
I just got into it, and sold hash, and to make a long story short, I ended up in federal pen for sales of hashies and heroin, and I had a 2-year pretrial agreement. And the judge sentenced me to 25 years, but I had a 2-year pretrial agreement, which means that's what you do. And I did a year in Leavenworth, but during that year, I got my GED because I was, when I was younger, I wasn't acting right in school. I did school, I would, run around. But I got my GED, and I took up a course called Guides for Better Living. So when I got out of Leavenworth, I did a year in Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary, and I got out, and I wanted to be a truck driver, but it wasn't a truck driver school in Oklahoma, and I would have to go to Kansas or Texas to go to truck driver school. And I had met a guy when I was in prison that was a barber, and he told me he was going to take up cosmetology as a whole when he got out, and I never thought nothing about doing any hair. But I knew I didn't want to get a job because my attitude was bad. And if I get a supervisor that's an ex-drill sergeant and talk to me crazy or anything else, I'd be unemployed. So I ended up in beauty college. But I never stopped using drugs. I never stopped trying to sell. That journey got worse. And I went through beauty college. I did well. And everything I've tried, I did well. I excelled in, and I give God the glory for that. But I excelled in things that I did. And I went through beauty college. I did well with that. And I came out and I got into the business and I did well with that. And as time passed, me and another guy and a lady opened up a shop. But when I did that, I was still drinking, smoking, partying, and studied, doing more and more. And in my mind, I was in control. But one day I met a guy and I would buy so much weed from him, and I'd sell a little weed through the beauty shop while I was doing hair. And I went to give me some more weed one time, and he was smoking crack cocaine. I mean, not crack, but cocaine. Back then, you had to cook it yourself. And my curiosity set me down, and I got high with him on some cocaine, and that was
so this is so interesting. During this whole journey, did you ever have anybody who tried to intervene, like, hey, Richard, you might want to stop doing that. That stuff's bad for you. It's going to cause problems for you. It's going to land you in jail. You're hurting your community. You're hurting yourself. Did anyone ever try to intervene with you on that?
Yeah. I mean, you would always, and especially your parents. My mother more so than anything, But yeah, I would. And again, in my mind, I was in control. I was in control. I could stop. You know how we always say, I can stop when I want to or when I get ready. But it continued, and I elevated and kept on. And I think I was pretty much responsible, and I always considered myself not selfish or whatever else. But when you own something like cocaine, you pretty much have to be selfish, even if you're not aware of it. Because I'm saying it's a difference if you needed $20 and that's all I had, I'm saying it ain't no way you finna get my next fix, my next rock. That's not finna happen. Whereas in, under normal circumstances. But I continued on and ended up losing my shop. I sold it. As far as the people in Oklahoma is concerned, I sold it, but I basically lost the shop. I sold it, and I moved to Houston. And I lived in Houston for 18 years, and I continued in my drugs there, and I ended up going to prison again for forgery. And because I would be in my drug addiction, I would get to a point to where if it got real bad and I felt like I was losing weight or looking bad or get towards embarrassing, I would just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would disappear is when I would go back to them old ways and old habits. And I started with some people, and we was doing forgery and doing all these things and selling checks. And I ended up in prison again in Houston. I got sentenced to 16 years, and I got sentenced to 10 years, and I did 16 months on that 10-year sentence, and got out and went back and continued on. And
so, well, let me ask you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me ask you, so going to Leavenworth, you're in federal prison for basically selling drugs. Did they know you were doing drugs at the time as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any programs that you were mandated that you had to have while you was in prison to try to relieve yourself from that addiction?
You didn't have to. You didn't have to, but you did. And the sad part is when you're in prison, until you get tired, and the thing about it, you would think that while you're in prison, you would have time to think about what you did and all these things. And in some cases you might do that, but a lot of times you be trying to figure out how to do this successfully the next time. Until you get in your mind that it's not going to work, because the Bible says nothing new under the sun. Well, I always would look at you and say, well, no, I'm not going to do it like that. Even if you gave me advice, if some old people gave me some advice, I'd be like, okay, I like your advice. Thank you. But I'm not going to do it like you did it. I'm going to do it different. But I didn't understand nothing new under the sun. Mm-hmm. And difference mean you might do it a different way, but it's the same thing.
Right.
So, while I was in there, in my mind, I'm thinking about how I can do this successfully the next time. And when I get out, I'm going to party. I'm going to get this big drink. I'm going to get, I'm going when I get out.
Right.
And that right there, it just kills any thoughts of trying to not to. Right. So when I got out, I did it even better. And I got out in Houston. I ended up drugging, and I ended up in different programs. And I went through several programs. I ended up homeless a time or two. I ended up living in the Salvation Army and in the Harbor Life Center in Houston, Texas. It's a Salvation Army Harbor Life Center. Mm-hmm. I lived there. I went through a program there, and we had a little choir and sung in the choir. And I'm so grateful that the one thing I do know, my mother raised me. We had to go to church.
Right.
If she didn't take us, she sent us. Mm-hmm. But we had to go to church, and sometimes we walk to and from. Sometimes we get blessed and catch a cab there, but we walk home. But the Bible says, raise up a child in the way he should go, and in the end, he will not depart from it. So I thank God that my mother raised me in church and that I was, blessed to get to know and to know God. I was exposed to that. And I've always had a relationship with God, I believe. And I would talk because I know a lot of times during my addictions, while I was in Houston and being homeless and different things, sometimes somebody would look at me and just out of the blue, they would look at me and, we've been hustled all night, getting high, and did all these things getting high. And they would look at me and say, man, why are you out here? You don't belong out here. You don't look like you belong out here. Why are you out here? And I'd be stunned because I'm out here with you, man. We've been hustling all night. Right. But I understand now that just God was saying things to me. There's a story about a prophet named Baileys who he was going in his donkey, saw the angel finna kill him, and the donkey tried to rescue him. And the donkey ran off the road, and he wrestled with the donkey and kicked the donkey and got him back on the road. And the donkey saw this angel again and took him off the road, and he got mad, and God gave this donkey the ability to speak. So the donkey looked at him and said, haven't I been faithful to you? And this and so I always, when I went through things, I'm saying today I can look back,
right,
and I can see that was when that jackass talked to me. That's when the donkey spoke to me.
right.
Even if you were going down the street and somebody look at you when you're a kid or whatever, it can be an alcoholic. He can be drunk, and he get out that street, quit running across that street, looking for ways. That's that jackass trying to tell you something.
Right.
That's God's word coming through them. Even if they don't, God speaks into you all the time until you learn to hear.
So, you mentioned about being homeless, and you talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from the military, you're in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of people, who join the military love to go to.
Mm-hmm.
You go to prison. You, in your mind, you're thinking how to better yourself in the life that you were living before you went to prison.
Right.
Not to change it, but to learn from those mistakes. This is what got me caught. I'm going to do this now this way. To doing that, to going back to jail and being homeless, did you ever once thought or seen yourself being homeless on the streets?
No. No, I didn't. And the funny thing about that, and I gotta say this, is even if you are living with someone,
mm-hmm.
and you basically living off of them,
right?
Or you might be using people. You meet a lady and she's on food stamp, or you living off of them. You never realize that you're really homeless.
Right.
You don't think of it that way. You might look at a homeless person and be like, man, how you living like this and this, that, and other. But if you're not paying your own way, if you're not working and paying your own bills and everything else, you are that person you're looking at. You're homeless. Right. You're just fortunate enough to be in someone's home.
Right. And we often do confuse the two, because when we say homeless, we're thinking of those who live on the streets, who we see up underneath the bridges, right, and the park benches like this, but we're not thinking about those grown adults who are living with someone who aren't contributing nothing to that particular household or income for anything at all. In theory, you're right. They too would be a homeless person. They are homeless as well.
All they have to do is tell them to get out.
Right. So you're in Houston, you get out, and what's next? What happens next?
Well, my brother kept telling me, man, come to Huntsville, Alabama. And in my mind, I'm not going, and I used to tell him, man, I'm not going down there getting strung up in no tree, and it wasn't a thing about for this country or nothing like that, because I'm saying Oklahoma's a red state, right. Texas is a red state. What I'm gonna do in Alabama? And I argued with him. I said, man, I'm not coming down there getting strung up in no tree. And he said, man, it's not like that anymore. And this, that. And I said, okay, yeah, right. And at time, when time went on, I ended up moving to Dallas, and I stayed in Dallas for a few years, and I ended up in another program house. I went into a program house in Waxahachie, Texas. And I stayed in that program house almost a year. But it's something about if your mind is not there, until you get tired, you continue. And I did well in that program house, and it was a Christian-based thing, and I did well, and I got very close with God, because we would go out in the mornings and stand away from each other for 30 minutes and talk with God.
Right.
And man, it was amazing. It was amazing, and it was amazing what I felt, but still, I wasn't through.
Right.
And I left from there and ended up drugs again, until I just got tired, and I did want to change. And the funny thing, you want to change, and you think about leaving places and all that. And strangely enough, God has rescued me. Well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I ended up, I'll explain that. I'll explain that. But I ended up getting tired and wanting to change in the environment and everything else. So I did eventually move to Huntsville. And I moved here to Huntsville. And when I first came here, I didn't understand Research Park.
Right.
I didn't, I heard about the Arsenal, but oh well, But it was a smaller town to me, and I felt like, man, I'm in Mayberry. And when I said that, I'm thinking about the legal side of it. And
Right.
The legal side of it is different, because the legal thing here in Huntsville, they'll tell you, you come on vacation, you leave on probation. You hear that. And I came here, and my brother was here, and I, I got a start. He helped me with a few things, and I went right back into my drugs. I wasn't through, but now I wasn't through, and I went to running through drugs here, but now all the time, here's the funny thing: I would come first, and I'd go into my business as a hairdresser, and I had enough sense I could go in the shop and work and do hair and make money and go get high. And then sometime I would leave money in the shop so I wouldn't mess it up.
Right.
Only to come back 3, 4 at night and get it. And just that same vicious circle. And I ended up homeless again here. And I lived in the Mission. And this is when the Mission was on Sonat, before it is where it is now. And they had like about 40-something beds. You can get in there and get your bed. And I would be in that Mission. And I was in the Mission, and I had got tired, somewhat tired, for a minute anyway. And I was staying in the Mission, getting up every morning, eating breakfast, and I'd go out and try to find me some work. And I hooked up with a man that had a cleaning service, and I got with him, and I started working with him doing the cleaning service. And then I met another guy that went to this particular church, and I got with him, and he would take me to church. And I started getting my act together again. And I was always in the shop, and it's funny because, I'll explain. But I was in this church, and you know how when you start going to the church, you go in and you always kind of sit in the same area.
Right.
And it was an older man sitting down in the same booth, the same chair that I was cute. Yeah. And I would speak and see him and go home. And I'd get up in the morning and eat breakfast and then go to work. And the guy would come get me, and I'd go to church. And one day, and it's funny, God be ahead of you. I asked this guy, I said, man, do you know anybody that might rent rooms or anything like that? He said, man, the man you've been sitting. Yeah. He said, and I'm saying, God, do this. Right. I'm saying, when you really just, it don't take, listen, if you just stop for a second and look back at your life, and really look at it, you will see God's hand right there through it. So I got a room. I talked to him, and I got a room in his house, and I was living in his house, and I was going to the shop, and I was doing well, but I would sneak in and be in my room, and I'd get high. I never gave that up. And I kept on. And time went on, and as once again, I started getting so much to where I was looking bad in the shop till I disappeared.
Right.
And I went back into my addiction to that degree. And I got arrested again, but this time I got arrested and it saved my life, because I got arrested here in Huntsville. And it was 3 of us in the car. And when they arrest you for a crack pipe or something like this here, then you might get some time in the county for that. But the funny thing is, when this happened, I had a little rock in my mouth, and I'm trying to hold on to it in case we get out of this. I'll have my little hit. And we they found the crack pipes outside the car, but they still pinned them on us. And the guy that was with us, I think he may have said something. I don't know if he said anything to the officer or not, but the officer got out the car and walked up to me and said, "Do you have anything in your mouth?" And here's the crazy part. And I'm giving this, and I'm gonna give this to God again.
Mm-hmm.
I got this pebble in my mouth. I could have swallowed it, but I tried to spit it out, and when I spit it out, it hit him right here, and it hit the front. and he hit the flashlight, and when you hit them flashlight, it's daylight.
Right.
And he picked that rock up. So it's if you go to jail here and your bond is $5,000 or less, you can sign yourself out,
Mm-hmm.
what they call a personal reconnaissance bond.
Right.
And that bond will mean, okay, I'm gonna come back to court and you can be released. Well, because of that pebble, mine was $8,000. So I didn't have that option. But here's the thing. I'm TB positive, which means I've been exposed, and a lot of people work in hospitals or whatever else, they've been exposed.
Right.
And they give you these pills you take for 6 months or whatever, and then you have to just, you don't take another TB test because it'll be positive. You take chest x-rays to make sure you're not airborne or you're good. So the time I went in, I started working in the kitchen, and they had the TB test. And I told them I'm positive. So they came with this little Wrigley x-ray machine, and they pushed it up to me in a sharp angle. And when they did my chest x-ray, they saw something in my lungs, and they took me and they tried to do a biopsy a couple of times and couldn't get it. They went in the front and couldn't get it. And they went in the back and couldn't get it. So they sent me to the cancer clinic, and the doctor I still have today, he looked at me, he said, "You tell them to quit worrying about if it's cancerous or not. It don't belong. Tell them to get it out, then see if it's positive." So they send me to a doctor, and doctors didn't want to. A lot of the doctors said where it was, they didn't want to fool with me because if they touched the wrong thing, I would lose the use of my arm.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a heart surgeon that decided he would do it for me. And he took it on. Well, when that came about, because the city didn't want to pay,
Right.
They didn't mind paying for the tests, but they didn't want to pay for the
for
surgery.
that surgery.
So they came and they said, and they called my name, "Who's Richard Williams?" I said, "Man," they said, "We get you out of here. Will you have the surgery?" "Yes, I will." "Yes, I will." So they sent me out of the kitchen, told me to quit working. And I'd been in there about 6 months or so, told me to quit working. So about 20 days later, about 2-3 weeks later, me and 22 other people got out because they raised the bond, the personal reconnaissance bond, from 5,000 to 10.
Okay.
Which covered me and some more people.
Right.
So 20 something, but it was cheaper than paying for the surgery. And I had the surgery. And lo and behold, they got the cyst out. It was a cyst on my artery. It was in my lung, but it wasn't lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
They took it out. It was cancerous. So now I got half a lung. This upper lobe is gone, and I still have the bottom. I still have my whole lung here. So if you try to get me up here, there ain't nothing up here. But I breathe and do as well as anybody with the whole thing.
Right.
But from there, they did that, and lo and behold, I got high again with half a lung. I smoked and drank again, and that's I smoked and drank again.
Even at that point of going through a potential life-threatening scenario with yourself, having surgery, getting the cyst removed, the cancer cyst removed, part of your lung cut off. At that point, you didn't have anything in you says, "You know what, Richard, enough's enough.
Yeah.
You know what, you need to act, straighten up, fly right, and start doing right by yourself, your body. Your body's a temple. What is it? What would it take for you to get there? So you're still doing that. When did you finally find that, hey, I'm done?
When I finally realized, I mean, I'm saying, you always try to figure out how to do what you want to do
Right.
successfully. And there's no successful way to do wrong, you know. And I got tired. When I literally got tired,
Wow.
you know, because God, I'm saying God blessed me that time, because I'm saying, what's the odds? I'm saying God rescued me that time. What's the odds on you going to prison? Because they don't just do TB tests
Right.
every 2 weeks or once a month. That's certainly coming up. What's the odds on me going to jail at that time?
Mm-hmm.
For that to happen, for me to, you know, that's God intervened again, and I figured it's something He must want me to do. But I got tired. I got tired, and I realized that finances wasn't the problem. When I really, really, really got tired and realized that I don't have the strength, the Bible says you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. That strength doesn't mean He's going to make you strong enough to resist. He's going to do. It's not a physical strength. It's not it's not emotional strength. It's none of that. It's having faith.
Right.
You know, that look at what He already done.
Right.
You know, He's brought me. And I gotta say this. I ended up in the hospital on another occasion for pneumonia, and they ran all the tests in the world on me. Now, as long as I was drugged and everything else, I was having sex randomly, all crazy, no protection, anything else. For me to come through this and not have any kind of disease,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I don't have any kind of disease. That right there in itself blew my mind. But I'm saying I can see God's hand through this. I don't have any disease. I'm still alive. I've got half a lung, you know, and so I got tired. And when I got tired, I was in an apartment on a university across from Bojangles.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized this, I'm tired. I mean, I'm tired of gaining, and I'm saying the whole time I was doing her, people saw God in me and saw I was still maintaining, trying to dress. I was still coming and doing hair, and I did hair well. I mean, I give God that He gave me the ability to do that. I do hair well. I had customers, they would come and pick me up, take me to work, bring me home. You know, I had all the help in the world, and for the people telling me to stop, quit, stop, all of that. But I continued. But when I really, really got tired, and that's what it was for me. And when I really not just got tired, but I understand I don't have no wind within myself.
Right.
So I left this apartment and I went to a program house, and they told me that they wouldn't have a bed for me for at least 2 weeks. Well, I was afraid to go back home because I knew if I went back to my apartment, all it took was the right person or the right time for them to come, and I'm off and running again. So I went over to my brother's, and I stayed with my brother a week, and I would catch the bus, and I would catch the bus to work and everything else. And I went back a week later, and they had a bed for me. So I went into this program house, and I knew finance wasn't a problem because I could have left that program house 3-6 months. Financially, I would have been I was ready to go.
Right.
But I knew I wasn't ready because finance was never my problem, and my strength wasn't there, you know. So I stayed in that program house over 2 years. I stayed there over 2 years. And the funny thing, while I was in there, I used to, and this is how bad I was. Ladies would come to get a perm or whatever. Sometime and they knew me, they would come, they need a perm, and I would look at them and be like, well, could you pay me in advance? And not only that, could you take me to the supply to get the perm? And they would, because they saw in me more than I saw in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they did. And they would take me to get the perm and all that. So I got a bicycle. And I was happy to have a bicycle to run to the beauty supply and things like that. And I would catch the bus. I'm telling you, and there are people, and it really amazes me, especially young people, that will be unemployed before they'll catch public transportation to go to work.
Whew. Oh, I know it. Trust me, I know it.
And I'm like, really?
Oh, I know it.
You know, that bothers me. And then you got parents that support them in that,
Right.
going all out their way to get them right. In that bus, get on that bus. That's what's the word I'm trying to say? Yes, self-sufficient.
Self-sustaining. Transportation is there.
So I bought me rain suit, a little rain suit, and not the plastic one. I had a good one. It was a little $60, something like that. But I had the pants and the jacket, and I bought me some boots. And I would get up 5:30 in the morning, and I would walk through the complex. I was off of Drake, and I was in a program house right off of Drake and Patton.
Mm-hmm.
And I would walk through this complex through rain, mud. I was tough as the mailman. Mailman ain't had nothing on me. I walked through the rain, the mud, the snow, and go catch my bus,
right,
and go to the shop. And when I would finish working, I would either, if I had to catch a cab home, I had to, but a lot of time I had a customer that would take me home, or somebody from the house might come and get me. But it got so messed up till I stopped fooling with people, and I would catch that bus. But if I didn't get out the shop early enough to catch the bus back, I had to get somebody.
Right.
But I got tired. And I remember, I'm 68. I'm 68 years old right now. And I think I was about 56 or so when I went into this program house. But I remember on my 58th birthday, I was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been in the hospital from pneumonia, and man, I was so grateful. And I had asked God to help me quit smoking, and I was still trying to sneak and smoke. But after that pneumonia kicked, no more smoking. But I remember on my 58th birthday, I was in a room with a guy, and he was on the bottom bunk. He was there before I got there. He was there when I left.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't get a bottom bunk. Now, if I wanted to go into another room, when somebody left, I could get the bottom bunk, but I don't know who's going to come in and live in the top bunk. So I'd rather be with the person I knew. And I stayed on there, but and here's another funny thing about it. On this top bunk, we was in the back, and it's a big old tree outside the window, and I could touch the ceiling. So when it stormed and rained, I'd get down and sit in the chair because I could see this tree coming in on me. But I turned 58 years old, and I thought to myself, this is crazy. You 58 years old, sleeping on a top bunk, living in a house with a bunch of men.
Right.
This ain't crazy. So from there, I went to the auction. The auction was still going on University. I went and bought me a 2000 Explorer. And I bought that little Explorer, and I put about 1,000 in it, in a stretch of time.
Right.
And I started going to Arkansas, visiting my brother, and we enjoying things. I started vacationing and enjoying life, and I stayed sober. And I'm finally, about a year later, I moved out and got me in a little apartment. And I'm in that apartment today. I got me a 2-bedroom townhouse, and God was in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people told me, and can I tell you that about the apartment?
Right.
Okay. When I went to the apartment, the lady told me, said, your credit ain't good enough. I can't let you in here. I said, okay. So what? So she said, here's what we can do. She said, because now I didn't want to be on Accent Trail. I lived on Accent Trail before.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go back on no Accent Trail. I didn't want to go in those areas. So any option was good for me. So she told me, if you stay in one of our other properties for a year, then you can build up enough and I can let you in here. I said, cool. Even if we're going to be exiting trail, it didn't matter. I know I'm looking at least I'll be able to come out of this. So I kept telling her, where's the apartment? And she showed me. So I went to some small ones and they was too small. And I told her I wanted 2 bedrooms. She said, why? I said, because I want to furnish it for my 2 bedroom when I moved here. Because I was trying to get a 2 bedroom townhouse. And I kept hounding her for about a month or so. And one day she looked at me and she said, I'm going to let you in here. She said, don't you say nothing. She said, get your money together and I'm going to let you. I said, well, do you have anything up front? She said, no, you're probably going to be either in the back or in the middle.
Right.
And I was cool with that, but I mean, I still wanted to be up front. 1 week later, I promise you, 1 week later, she called me. She said, get over here with your money. I'm going to show you something. And I went there and it was an apartment. It was a 2 bedroom townhouse. I'm talking about right in the front.
Mm-hmm.
I got one neighbor because the walkway is on the side of me. I have one neighbor and she showed it to me. And I'm saying, when I walk out my door, I'm on the front street. I'm out. And I gave her my money and I've been there now. It's been 8-9 years.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So, you know, Richard, when we come together here at CNOT Solutions, we come every first and third Saturday of the month and we do our peer-to-peer, and you're always so innovating and giving great information to those who were trying to help and get them going. So you done moved from military to jail, out to jail, back out in jail again.
Yes.
And now not only do you do hair in one of the salons, you also are now a business owner yourself of your own loan service. Talk to me about that. How did you get started with that?
Well, I'm in the salon. I mean, I've been doing hair for about 40-something years, and I've been blessed. That's been very good. And I still have customers that I had that I disappeared on, came back. And they're more excited about my life now, as even more than I am, and we still share about these things. But I realize that I love doing hair, and I'm not getting younger.
Right.
And God has been blessing me. My business is very well because when COVID hit, I was in the best shop in the world for the COVID because we were more than 6 feet apart. And anyway, but I knew that whenever I stopped doing hair, my income is over.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been blessed. I mean, at 68 years old, I still have my health and strength to do things. And I'm saying, even though I might be behind in times of doing things, I serve a God that can stop time. And for people that worry about if you have to go into a year-long program or anything like this here, and you be like, man, that's too long. I don't want to be no year in this program. I don't want to go to school for 5 years. I don't want to do this here. Well, if you plan on living another year or 5 years,
mm-hmm.
you need to take advantage of those opportunities. So I'm saying I still have my health and strength, and I'm blessed. So I have an opportunity to start a business so that whenever I do decide to come off from behind that salon share, I still have the income and a business to maintain the lifestyle that I love. I mean, if I have to go welfare and food stamps, I'm not too proud. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can maintain a lifestyle that I can go on vacation, I can still do some things. Because right now I'm doing things in my life that's so exciting, And so I started the lawn care business because I'm not a computer person.
Right.
And anything I want to do in that line, I would have to rely on somebody else more than myself. And I'm fear of that. But I started the lawn care business, and it's coming along much better than I expected. It really is. It's growing. I'm not at a place I'm at a place now to where I have to pay someone to help me.
Wow.
I've got more business than I can do
awesome.
myself.
That is awesome. Hey, folks, those of y'all who are watching this broadcast, please remember, like, share, comment on this. Give this information to someone who needs to hear Richard's story, because you may know someone who's gone down that road that Richard has went down, and he could be that success story for them. Like, Les, you could come out of this. You can come out of this. Even though Richard is at 68 years old, he is an entrepreneur, a business owner. He's a stylist, been doing it for over 40 years, and he's making that change. He's making that change, and so can they. They could make that change as well. You know, Richard, I tell you what, this has been awesome. This has really been awesome. Is there anything that you would like to say, a few words you want to part with, you know, to the viewers or to somebody who may be going down that wrong road?
You don't, I'll say it like this here. You know, the old saying is, you know, you can learn from your mistakes. And the old saying is you can learn more so from other people's mistakes. And it's all true. The little cliches, nothing new under the sun, it's true. You might do things different, but it's the same result. Trust and believe when I tell you nothing new under the sun. If your parents, if an older person or anybody else trying to tell you something, listen for a minute. But more than anything, stop. I'm saying, listen, God says, lean not to you, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. If you think for 1 second that the alarm clock woke you up this morning, you're leaning on your own understanding. The alarm clock didn't wake you up. It startled you. God woke you up. It just stop for a minute and just stop and look at your life and think about some of the things you did, the accident you missed, the bullet that shot by your head, you had to stop at the store, and because you stopped at the store, you missed the accident that was right in front of you. Just any little thing, those are not coincidences, and those are not good luck. That's blessed. God has been looking out for you. Just take a minute and really look back at your life, and I guarantee you'll see God's hands through there somewhere. And don't do me. And please don't do me. You know, when young people get your education, that's when you was getting your education. I mean, you doing what you're doing. When you was getting your education, I was
Out there partying,
right, and enjoying. And now people my age are retiring. Mm-hmm. There are people much younger than me are retired, and they're enjoying their life. But because I kept doing what I'm doing, I'm blessed to be working. I'm blessed to have my business. I'm blessed to be doing hair. But if I would have acted like I had some sense, I could be relaxing right now.
Right.
So don't do me. Get your education. And more than anything, get to know God. And parents, I mean, and young people having kids and everything else, understand that. Lead your child to Jesus for this reason, if no other reason alone, but for this one. God is with your child when you're not. And that, because I'm saying I'm here today because of the grace of God.
Yeah. That is awesome. That is awesome. Hey, for those of y'all who live here in the Huntsville, Alabama area, if you're a young lady and you need to get your hair done, you can see Richard at Bella Salon. He's there on which days?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you are looking to get some lawn service done, he has his lawn care business. You can just contact us, or you can contact Richard at 256-932-4289. All right.
That's the lawn care business.
That's the lawn care number.
Yeah.
And if you just want to talk to Richard on a one-on-one for hairstyling, you can reach him at 256-417-1601. You know, hey, this is awesome. If you didn't get any of that information, please reach out here to C9 Solutions. I do have all that information here for Richard, for either one of his businesses that you need to be part of, or even if you want to probably reach out to Richard and talk to him, or come down to one of our peer-to-peer meetings here at C9 Solutions every first and third Saturday of the month. All right, Richard, thank you for coming in. We appreciate this. I've always appreciated you. I've always love sitting down and talking with you and hearing you talk, because your story is important to me, because it allows me to let others know. It allows me to talk to others. You know, like this, I know someone, which I know what you're talking about. I've talked to somebody who's been that way, you know, like this. And I always like to pair these people up with you, or have them come to our meetings so they can have a better understanding of life as well. And I love what you said there at the end. Don't be like me. Don't wait like I waited. Like this, I tell everybody all the time, when my kids or friends or people I meet, that says, man, Mr. Fry, Charles, when I grow up, I want to be like you. I'm like, no, don't be like me.
No.
Be better than me.
Yes.
That's what I want you to do.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So as always, everybody, remember, your yesterday is not your today, and your today is not your tomorrow. Good night.